Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS, Paul here, and in today's video I'm going to be profiling my Exodia deck, a deck that I have actually never built before, but I was inspired by the recent Exodia Lost Art promotions. So in case you guys didn't know, Exodia's original artwork was kind of censored. They changed the magical star behind him to be this evil circle that they use in Yu-Gi-Oh! But recently Konami released these altered artworks of all of the Exodia arts. Now, this is what you would think if you played in the TCG, but these are actually the original arts used in the Japanese version of the game. And so I've been collecting these over the past few months just by going to locals and getting them. And I really like this. I think it's a good step in the right direction for Konami. They need to do this more often. Hopefully they will. Maybe there'll be new promotions with other uncensored Yu-Gi-Oh cards, things like that. But anyway, gonna hop into the deck profile. This is an Exodia Obliterate deck. I decided that the FTK, just draw, and win in one turn. That's not that much fun for me. I decided I would actually use some of the Exodia support. So we're going to hop right in with the 5 pieces. This is, of course, the head, the arm, the other arm, and the legs. So you have to run these, obviously, they're limited to 1, so you can only run 1 of each. The cool part about these cards is that they actually do have some synergy. These being vanillas means you can get them back with, Dark Factory Mass Production. Them being dark opens up some synergy as well. And so you guys will see some of where that comes in. You don't ever, and I mean ever, want to let these cards get banished. You don't want to let anything bad happen to them, because if you can't recover them, this deck does nothing. So make sure that you, keep that all together. Alright, next we have the main monster of the deck, which is the legendary Exodia Incarnate. This is a really cool Exodia monster. It's better, I think, than Necros and those other ones. You can special summon it by distributing one of your Forbidden 1 monsters, and that's actually the only way you can special summon it. It gets 1,000 attack for all the Forbidden 1 monsters that are in your graveyard. It's unaffected by other cards' effects, and when it gets destroyed by battle, you're actually able to draw a card for every Forbidden 1 monster in your hand. Now, the best effect here is that during the end phase, you're able to recover one of your Forbidden 1 monsters from your grave. So the idea here is, you normal summon this, right? And then you tribute it to summon this guy. You can summon him in defense, and that way he won't be able to be, hit by card effects. You won't take any battle damage if he gets destroyed. And now during each of your end phases, you're able to just, recover these guys from the graveyard. It'll make him lose attack, but that's not that important. You don't mind if he dies, because when he dies, you get to reveal all of these guys and then draw cards for each one. So if you have, 3, Forbidden 1 pieces, you get to draw 3 cards, and that's really, really strong. So yes, we run 3 copies of him. We want to see him very quickly. We want him to just survive and get his effect off a few times, and that will get us our Exodia cards. And that's how we win. I've got a really cool tech in here. It's actually the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode. I know that God cards have no place in an Exodia deck, but I feel like Sphere Mode is an exception because effectively you're going to be stalling the whole game, so this makes a lot of sense. Whenever your opponent accumulates loads of monsters and tries to kill you, you have plenty of spells and traps and stuff that can stop effects and stop damage, but you still have to deal with the monsters, and this lets you tribute 3 of your opponent's monsters, and they're just off the field. They get tributed as a cost, so there's no real problems with oh, this card can't be targeted, or it's unaffected by monster effects. And it gets summoned to your opponent's side of the field. It can't be targeted or anything like that, and then at the end of that turn, it returns to your control, and then it can protect you, because it can just sit there and your opponent has to deal with 1 more defensive wall. So I run 2 copies of it. I don't run the Winged Dragon of Ra or anything like that, just Sphere Mode. Now we get into our defensive stall and draw cards. So 3 copies of Card D. It's pretty staple in Exodia decks. Most people know about that. You normal summon it, and then you contribute it. It immediately becomes the end phase, but you get to draw 2 cards. If you already have, a setup going with some things like, Obliterate and, Incarnate out in the field, this is great because it ends your turn, and that's fine, and then you get draws, and draws are really good. It's a +1. That's all it's really here for. And then we also have the defensive monsters, triple Swift Scarecrow and triple Battle Fader. So whenever you get hit by direct attacks, you can discard Swift Scarecrow or just special summon Battle Fader, stop those attacks, and end the turn. And what you quickly realize in this deck is that another turn is the world in this deck, right? Because that's 1 more turn to send an Exodia piece, or 1 more turn to recover 1, or, get extra draw cards. So you want to see these, you want to use them wisely. It's okay to take a little bit of damage in this deck. So if you take 1 direct attack, that's fine. But when your opponent has 2 or 3 monsters, that's when you want to start using these types of cards, because that's when they're at their most useful. Then we'll get into the spells. 3 copies of Pot of Duality. This deck rarely special summons outside of actually summoning, Incarnate. So Pot of Duality lets you search through your deck, get your cards. You might want to get an Exodia piece, or you might need to get something like a Dark Factory just to, recover ones that are in your graveyard. So I'm running 3 copies of this, and we also run 3 copies of Hand Destruction. It's another draw card. You send 2 and you draw 2. Be careful with this card though. If your opponent doesn't actually have 2 cards in their hand, you can't use Hand Destruction, so it can be a little bit tricky that way. So just make sure you keep that in mind, but this is great because you can filter through dead cards in your hand and then potentially get to Exodia pieces. And don't feel too bad if you have to discard an Exodia piece for this, because you can always recover them from the graveyard. Then we have 2 Dark World Dealings. I'm only running 2 because I actually find Hand Destruction to be just a hair better since it filters 2 cards at a time instead of Dark World Dealings, which just filters 1. Upstart Goblin, why not? Play 39 cards. Life points don't mean anything either way, so it's all fine. Then we have Magic Planter. This draw card is actually great because Obliterate is a continuous trap and actually has an effect when it goes to the graveyard. So this is good, and then it gets you draw power in the process. 1 Day of Peace, because this is actually a draw card and a defensive card. When you use it, you won't take any damage until the end of the next turn. And that actually includes effect damage, so it's just something useful to keep in mind. Won't come up often, but it's there for that. And then 2 Dark Factory Mass Production. So this is actually, like, in some cases, a win condition almost. You get to recover, 2 normal monsters from your graveyard, put them back in your hand. You will be sending a lot of Exodia pieces to the grave with Obliterate and stuff, so this lets you get them back. And nothing is more frustrating for the opponent than having you top deck something like Dark Factory, get back the last 2 pieces, and then win. So, yeah, it's actually pretty handy. I don't run 3 though, because I don't want to clog with it and just see it on the first turn. And now we have the centerpiece trap card of the deck, Obliterate. So, 3 exclamation points, by the way. I have to include that in the deck profile title. I hope I remember to. So this card is really cool. It's a continuous trap, and each turn you get to target a monster in the field. Then you're able to send one of the Forbidden One monsters or an Exodia card from your hand or the deck to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to return that target to the hand. So this can be useful for returning your opponent's monsters to the hand. It's kind of like a stun card. But what's a really cool interaction that you can do with this is, with Exodia Incarnate, you can use Obliterate and actually just target Exodia Incarnate. And as you can see, Exodia Incarnate is not actually affected by their card effects. You can still target him, so even if there's nothing else on the field, you can just use this, target him, and this will send a card from your deck to the graveyard, and then he can recover that card, and at least if it's your end phase. So within 5 turns, you will most certainly see all of your Exodia pieces, as long as these cards stay on the field. But if this doesn't stay on the field, that's okay, because if it gets sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard by your opponent's MST or Twin Twisters or even our copy of Magic Planter, you're actually able to get back forbidden cards in your graveyard. You could just target one and add it to your hand, and that might be the last piece you need. So this card has some insurance built in. That's what I really like about it. But you don't want to clog it too much, because 2 of them won't do a whole lot more for you, and that's where Magic Planter comes in, and it's very helpful. Then we have some Stally cards. We've got 2 Wabaku and 2 Threatening Roars. So both of these cards, you can run this in any ratio you want. You can run 3-1 or 3-3 or something like that. But they just protect you. That's all it really is. You want to use Threatening Roar, you want to use Wabaku. It's great. I actually like Threatening Roar a little bit more because it forces your opponent to just outright not attack. Whereas with Wabaku, there are occasional times when some opponent's monster might still be able to use an effect as long as it's attacked, because all this is doing is just reducing your battle damage. So yeah, so I prefer Threatening Roar a little bit over that, but I just did 2 and 2 to make the point that you can do whichever one you want. Then we have Spiritual Swords of Revealing Light. This is actually a really fun trap card. It's great because it works with Magic Planter, but once per attack you get to pay 1,000 life points and negate that attack, so it's really handy, and then you can banish it from your graveyard, even if it's been sent there that turn. It's pretty handy because some cards don't do that, and then your opponent can't attack you directly that turn. So this is really fun. I only run 1 copy because on the field it's not going to really be doing you a whole lot of good. Paying that many life points can add up pretty fast, and your opponent can exploit that. But once it's in your grave, it becomes effectively another Swift Scarecrow, another Battle Fate, another Threatening Roar type of card. So it's very handy. And that is actually all for the main deck. I don't run an extra deck. I feel like it's Exodia. He doesn't need an extra deck. Not to mention, you are not. The plan is not to make any Xyz monsters or make any Synchro monsters. I mean, if you wanted to, you could run some, like, level 1 stuff, you know? Like rank 1s and things like that. But all in all, I think that Exodia does just fine on its own. The plan here is not to deviate from that or get rid of any cards or anything like that. So, yes. That is my Exodia, the Forbidden One deck profile, featuring the new Exodia arts. Hopefully, if you guys haven't already, you can like pick these up, but I think now you'd have to probably buy them online because they aren't like easily accessible anymore, so you gotta be a little careful with that. Anyway, if you like the deck profile, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I will be doing more deck profiles like this. I want to redo Blue Eyes. I'm probably going to do Red Eyes, Dark Magician, all the fun classic stuff. So, yeah. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and also enter the giveaway that I'm doing. You can win a San Diego Comic-Con mat with Jade and Yuki and some other prizes. All the information about that is down in the description below. And I will see you guys in the next one.